Guys, look, I found Mike. Say hi, Mike. It's the most wonderful time of year, guys. The birds are chirping. I just got back from Brooklyn Horror Fest. I just broke out my DVD of Over the Garden Wall. I have my skeleton. You know what that means? It's Halloween time. As I said, I just got back from the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, and I saw 7 fucking movies. I'm gonna review all of them. It's gonna be a fun time. First up was the North American premiere of Housewife, directed by Baskin director Can Evrenol, and starring Clementine Poydats and David Sakurai. Housewife tells the story of... I'm not quite sure. There's a girl, her mom murders her sister when she's very young, and now she's older, and there's a weird Scientology cult, and a lot of focus on dreams, and it's really gory, and it's really crazy, and it's really weird. For those of you who watch this channel, you'll know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Baskin when I first watched it. I've since definitely toned down my dislike of it. I think that it has a lot good about it, and I definitely have thought a little better of it. It's still not my favorite. I still think it's a bit overhyped. That being said, though, I definitely appreciate it a bit more now. Housewife is very much the opposite end of the same coin as Baskin. Baskin was very hyper-masculine. Housewife is very feminine. Both are centered around weird cults, although, again, the cults are the opposite ends of the spectrum as well. In Baskin, they're creepy, weird basement dwellers, and in Housewife, they're very much a public Scientology cult led by a Joel Osteen type. And both movies go completely off the fucking rails in the third act. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. So let's just dive into Housewife as best I can. This is a very weird film. This is a weird movie, and for what it was, I very much appreciated that. Can Evrenol really takes a lot of heavy inspiration from the Italian horror films of the late 70s, early 80s in this. There's a lot of influences from Argento and Bava and Fulci in there, and they're very evident. This is very much a style over substance horror movie, and if you're not a fan of that, you're probably not going to like this. I personally love style over substance shit as long as it's amounting to something, and I felt that this movie amounted to enough that it worked pretty well in my opinion. Very Lovecraftian, very weird, very surreal, and I dug it. It very much reminded me of a Turkish Mulholland Drive had a baby with Suspiria or The Beyond, and in my opinion it worked quite well. I think it actually was pretty damn good. Let's talk about the acting first, because the acting in this movie ranges from good to really not good. Clementine Poydats is actually quite good. She gives a good performance. From what I've heard from the director, the role was originally meant to be played by the porn star Stoya, which is interesting, and I can actually understand that in a weird way, given the role in this film and how weirdly hypersexual it is. I can understand that completely. Clementine Poydats, though, does give a good performance. She is definitely stepped it up from her very minor role in Shut-In, which, as you all remember, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. This is a very interesting performance. It's a very weird, dreamlike role to play. It's a very spacey and dreamy and just weird all around. I don't really know how to explain it other than that. The other standout performance in this film is David Sakurai, who plays the cult leader, Brian O'Hara, I believe his name was, and he is very much the opposite of everything that the father in Baskin was. He's very charismatic. He has a whole public cult. And as the director said at a Q&A after, he was very much inspired by Joel Osteen to create this character. And you can really tell he's giving all these really like positive motivational speeches about how we're not supernatural, we're naturally super, and he's really just very energetic and very cool, if you will. I think that's a good word for it. And you know, he's got his whole very well-funded cult of dream surfers, and his presence definitely steps the movie up a peg, because his charisma and his overall energy really added a level of enjoyability to the film that I liked. The strongest point in this movie is Can Evrenol's direction, which is just really beautiful. This is a fucking stunning film. This is one of the prettiest films I've seen in a very long time. Like I said, it is very reminiscent of early Argento, very reminiscent of Lucio Fulci and Bava and all those films from, mostly from Italy, that very much emphasize the visuals over the story and very much are just more concerned with creating a weird, beautifully lit nightmare of a film than they are with telling a cohesive narrative that makes complete sense by the end. And Housewife very much follows that pattern. The best film I could liken it to is actually Dario Argento's Inferno. It's very disjointed and very mind-bending, and it keeps you really immersed by completely fucking your brain and making it so that you don't know what is real and what is a dream. And for a film like this, and the fact that it was definitely meant to be an homage to those types of films, it works quite well. In another film that didn't really know what it was doing, I would say it didn't work, but in this, it is done so expertly and done in a way that is such a love letter to those films that it is far more of a positive than a negative. It's also nice to see a Lovecraftian influence film that actually goes there, and I don't want to spoil what I mean by that, but if you see this film and you get to the ending, you'll know what I mean. Also, this film uses really, really wonderful practical effects that once again remind me of those films of the late 70s and early 80s, especially Fulci, godfather of gore. There is a lot of gore in this movie, and it is really fucking crazy. You have people's faces peeling off, you've got fucking skin slicing at really extreme close-ups. It very much felt like The Beyond to me, and I really just appreciated the hell out of that because that is a wonderful film. And The Beyond is another example of one of those films that doesn't really have a plot, and yet I love the hell out of it because it's pure style. And it's rare that I can appreciate a film like that, but in films like Fulci's, in films like Argento's, in films like Housewife, it just works, and I don't really know how to explain why. I guess it's because the style is so prevalent and it's so evident that it is purely focused on the style that the substance doesn't fully matter as much. That being said, this is not a perfect film. This is not something that I'm going to put up there with Suspiria or Inferno or The Beyond, because there are still things that, it does not great. Like I said, the actor who plays Holly's husband is really not a good actor at all. The entire film is in English, despite the fact that these are all foreign actors, I believe. And because of that, a lot of times the dialogue will feel a little clunky. The writing as well kind of feels a little stilted because of the fact that it is written to be in English, and as a result, things feel a little awkwardly translated at times. And supposedly this was done out of love for those films again, and the fact that in movies like The Beyond and movies like Inferno, all these characters and actors were dubbed horribly in English anyway, and supposedly this was done in homage to that. However, I felt it didn't really work as well here because of the fact that they weren't overdubbed. They were just speaking normally in English, and it came across just kind of awkward. There are certain lines written in English that I feel probably would have made more sense or felt a little more natural in French or Turkish or whatever language these actors would be speaking in, were they speaking their native languages. That being all said, I did enjoy Housewife. I felt it was a much stronger film than Baskin overall. I felt that it worked well for what it was trying to do, and what it was trying to do was be a really cool, well-made love letter to the Italian horror films of the 70s and 80s, and it's very strange. It's very cool. It goes completely fucking insane in the third act, and I loved that. I thought that was really cool. I think this is a really excellent second feature from Can Evrenol. I can't wait to see what he does next. I hope it stays more, it continues in the vein of things like Baskin and Housewife with weird, crazy cults and world-ending shit. And I'm gonna say that Housewife is solid. It's worth checking out for sure whenever it goes wide, and I think that for people like me who enjoy style over substance horror, I think you'll really dig this. Especially considering no one I talked to after the screening seemed to have a bad thing to say about it, which was really refreshing to hear. 1 down, 6 to go. Brooklyn Horror Fest, crazy lineup continuing soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and if you like me or Mike here, you can just like click down there and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll have 6 more Brooklyn Horror Fest reviews coming for you very, very soon. Thank you so much, guys.